Welcome back to another episode of the Coffee Q&A, your daily dose of coffee Q&A here on the OnoCoffee channel. I'm your host, Jay, and we are here most Monday through Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time talking about coffee. And today, as you can see, we're in the midst of a big snowstorm here in Baltimore and most of America, and it's evidently dropped tons of snow on places like Kansas City, Missouri, and it's supposed to dump a bit here. Right now, we're probably about 6 inches of snow. I thought, you know what, this is kind of an interesting. Let's go outside and make some coffee in the snow. So as you can see, with the basketball set up here, I've got the snow blower. I've been doing some snow blowing ops here, but that has not been going very well. Mom, good morning to you, man. I don't think, Mom, you guys are not supposed to have as much snow, I think, up in your part of the country, right? And I got the fire. I don't know if you can't see the fire yet, but I got a fire going on here because we're going to maybe use that to brew our coffee today. You know, just in case you're out in the snow sometime this year or in the future, and you're like, you know what, I'd like to have coffee while I'm cleaning my driveway. So I thought that let's explore that. So what I got is I got this old school style percolator. It's all getting snowy on here. The snow is coming down at a fairly good clip. Here's the interesting thing about snow, right? Like, we always think about snow as being one of those things that is very like flaky, but today's snow is more like pellets, right? So if you look here on top of here, you can see that it's more pelletized rather than individual flakes. So very, very interesting, and a different kind of snow than we would have expected. Okay, let's see. We need to stoke our fire. Let's get our fire going here. I'm going to show you. I built a little fire in the grill. This is what I do when I'm outside. Sometimes I just put fire in the grill instead of the fire pit because, you know, there's a fire pit over here, but the fire pit's always kind of low, right? It's kind of like difficult to get to. Kent, good morning. Busa, Naomi, good morning to all of you guys. So let's grab, I got some a pile of wood here. This is all pallet wood that I've been harvesting from pallets, and I just basically cut them up. Now, these, if you're not familiar with pallets have these like 2x4s in the center. Well, they all are driven with these nails that are actually really difficult to get out. So I used to try to wedge them out, but they're twist nails, so they're really difficult to get out. So I've abandoned that and just started cutting them out, and now I just cut them into firewood, and then we can drop this on there and help to feed the fire. I was thinking about so any kind of offcuts that I might have, I like to burn. All right, that should be good for now. We need our grill. I think we're gonna need this. Okay. That should give us a surface to put our stuff on. Our brewer. Everything requires some kind of adjustment here. All right, let's go here. Let's go there. Can we see the fire yet? All right, so what I've got today is this percolation type of thing. Right, that's not working out. We'll do that for now. Okay, that's good. And this will kind of give us like a cowboy-ish coffee. I think we're going to try to use the fire to heat the water, and hopefully we won't. This has a metal handle, which is probably a bad idea, but oh well. I got this at like a Goodwill for like a couple bucks, but it's the old school percolation style. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the water. We're going to put the water in here. Here's the problem, right? You got these big gloves, and they're comfortable, but you can't feel anything. You can barely move your fingers, and it's not that good. So we're going to put 20 ounces of water in here. I'm going to put this on the fire and do it in a way, hopefully, that won't, it's going to scorch the metal, of course, but hopefully it won't damage the wood on the handle. Okay, that might work. All right, we're going to try that. We're going to try that. So while that is heating and getting all discolored and really just wrecking my OCD about things, let's prepare the rest of our coffee. Now, I have ground a bunch of coffee, fairly coarse on the Ode Gen 2. Those who may be wondering, I ground it at the 9 setting. And then we've got our percolation thing here. So what this does, right, you put the coffee in this basket, and this one has a lot of perforations all the way around, and it allows the coffee to flow through it, right? Naomi says, I've never used a percolator before. Delwyn, how are you? Don't worry, we're going to show you how to use it. Coffee Cove, good morning to you as well. Oh, the old style percolator. Oh, yes, you remember those well. So as you can see here, this thing, it sits on the bottom, and then the water boils and pushes through the stem and comes over, right? It comes over, and in this case, it flows through these holes into the coffee, and then it flows out. And the whole thing about percolation is that it does this over a period of time. Now, a lot of people say that percolation does not produce nice coffee, and I think that's because how most people do it is they'll put all of this together with the coffee in the pot, and they'll put it on the heat, and they'll start it up. And even though we're talking about a different style of method of brewing, the basic rules of extraction time, exposure time to coffee to water they still apply. I'm going to put these other gloves on because, man, I've been getting pretty darn cold out here. Oh gosh, the fire is a little bit out of control at the moment. See, here's what's wrecking my OCD, right? See, it's starting to get like tainted and colored. I hate that. Oh, but as you saw, it is getting hot. So I'm going to open the lid on this because I'm going to have a look, just monitoring what the progress of it is. Maku, man, good to see you. Coffee Cove says, I ran a small coffee stand at work using an electric percolator, used Folgers coffee at the time, and was the preference of most. Yeah, you know, most people are used to Folgers, and I do think that most people say they prefer Folgers because they really haven't been exposed to much of anything else. And so that's one of the things that, like, I would find working, you know, having a coffee place, that we would have new guests that would come in and they would like be, well, you know, I've never been here before. It's like, okay, well, welcome, good to have you. They would come in, they would have coffee, and you know, maybe they'd probably take the coffee and leave. They wouldn't say anything. But I think that as they got exposed to the coffee and they found it enjoyable, it starts to change their thinking about coffee. Rather than just a modicum of getting caffeine and a way to wake up in the morning, it becomes a pleasurable experience. I think, you know what, I think it's a lot like beer, right? Like, I remember when I was in high school, and like, of course, I didn't drink when I was underage, of course, no one ever does. But, you know, when I first tasted beer, I was like, this is terrible. This is disgusting. Like, I don't like this. I never really got the beer, but I'm saying that I think that, you know, I think we do certain things in society like beer, like coffee, because it's kind of expected. So we go with whatever we have, which may not be of the greatest quality. And then we just kind of get used to that, and it becomes part of the routine, and suddenly, like, oh yeah, I like beer, I like coffee. You don't know why, you just like it, right? So I think that once you get exposed, here's our Baltimore County crews working hard. So thank you, guys. Okay, we're not quite there yet. We're not to boiling yet, but it's coming along. Now he says, my daughter uses Folgers too. Everybody uses Folgers, not to worry. Coffee Cove says, yes, true. I also did a pour over a few times, and that was really like, yeah, I think one of the things that people will like nicer coffee. The difficult part is to get them to make that switch, because everybody's used to some level of convenience, some level of what they're used to, right? So if they're used to grabbing a whole like big bottle or a big tub of Folgers, and then they go to their Mr. Coffee and they put a couple scoops in it and they're done. Or nowadays, if they're with their Keurig cup, their K-cups, it's so much easier to use those. They make it so simple that, you know, because the truth is that to get quality, you have to expend some effort. And, you know, everybody has their own equation of like how much effort they want to expend to get the quality that they desire. I think one of the things for me is that since I never really developed a true addiction to coffee where I can't function in the morning without it, coffee has always been about pleasure for me, right? So it's always been about enjoyment rather than necessity. All right, we're getting closer to the boiling. So I've got like I said, I ground 9 on the thing, and I've got the coffee here. So we're just going to pour it in. Try not to get it down the stem. Not that I think that makes a difference, because it should just fall through, but, you know, just as an exercise of... Now, I've only had this set up here outside for the last, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes, and it's got quite a bit of snow on it. So we got the coffee here. Just shake it up. This will actually hold a lot more. 20 ounces is only about half the capacity. So I'm going to put that on here. I also ground it fairly coarse because I figured it would just need, we're going to let it flow through it. So just let it flow through and not do too heavy an extraction. On the Coffee and Cigars live stream last Thursday, I used a similar, and when I used this, I used actually a mocha pot, which of course we ground really fine, and I wondered if it made it too heavy. So today we're gonna go a little bit less. Now you can see here, the fire is quite raging. Look at that. This is the kind of fire that I like. I like fire that is raging. Ken says, I haven't used my percolator in years because I did a shitty job cleaning. And it still spills today. Oh, that's funny. Omniel says, holy moly, dude, what are we doing? We're making coffee in the snow, my friend. So here's something. If you have, in your case, Kent, if you have a, what do you call it? If you have a stainless style percolator, right, you can use Cafiza. If you have an aluminum, and the Cafiza will take away all of that issues. It should at least. But if you have aluminum, don't do that. Aluminum and Cafiza and OxyClean have horrible relations. They're not very good. Oh my. Okay, let's see. I think we're getting close to having boiling temperatures here. Oh yeah, look at that. It's rolling, boiling there. Now we're going to take our percolator, drop that in, close that up, and now, what does it say on the 12:12 on the timer? Let's, as you can see, it is percolating, right? You can see it's already percolating here. That's pretty wild, right? That's pretty wild. Ooh, let me just walk around. So we're gonna stick with our normal time of, I don't know if you can see that. That's not too easy to see, is it? But you can see it's starting to percolate. However, the percolation is still looking fairly clear in the cup. Or in the, let me helicopter around this way, in this glass, which probably means that, you know, we haven't really started extracting a lot of it, but now it should be extracting. One thing I am worried, like, will we get enough extraction over the whole coffee bed, because this thing is slightly tilted. As you can see, it is popping up. It is starting its coloration. But it is definitely brewing over our fire. Excellent. So yeah, so it just takes, oh, was that working or did that not go? Sometimes if you hold the camera not the way that YouTube wants you to hold it, it kind of looks like it stops. Won't the water be too hot? Yeah, I mean, it's boiling. I mean, what we could probably do is maybe open it up, but of course it's shooting over that. Whatever. So I think that how it works is that it needs the boiling in order to percolate through. I think. Maybe not. I never really did anything controlled. I've actually never done this. I haven't done a lot of percolation. But I thought situationally this would be ideal for where we are today. But if we look here, you can see the color of the liquid coming through is getting a bit more colorful. It's getting more brown. One of the things I am concerned about now is my fire has broken down to the coals. The interesting thing about this pallet wood is that I discovered that a lot of times, so in America we think of pallets as being made of pine, which is the cheap ubiquitous pine, the wood that we have here in the United States. Evidently outside of the United States and Asia and other parts of the world, other sources of wood are much more plentiful, that they're, or deemed plentiful enough that they're going to use them to make pallets. So you see I got a lot of oak, poplar, Oh, what time is it now? 15 minutes. We got 3 minutes. We're 3 minutes into the brew. We should be almost done. Bird coffee. We might have bird coffee. My neighbor uses this method, stovetop for her coffee. I should ask her what a method. Yes, let's ask her and see what she thinks. All right, so we're 15 minutes, 30 seconds. We're 3 minutes, 30 seconds into it. I think we could stop now. So just stop, we just take it off of here. And as you can see, it's now scalded my pot, the fire, which does disappoint me. Now, I don't really want to put it on my brand new mobile workbench, so I need to put this on. I'll put this on the ground for a moment, or it's going to melt the coffee. And I'm going to grab a little bit of what do you call it? Wood, because we need to continue the fire. Because I'll probably be out here for quite a while, getting the driveway all cleaned up. All right, let's see here. We need to move. Take the grill off. Ooh, that's all like. Okay, some more wood there. Okay, good. Now we've got it all ready to go. Hunter in Brooklyn, what's going on, man? Is this Siberia? No, this is Baltimore. This is Baltimore, which may be like Siberia. All right, so we got our mug. We got a thermal mug. It's still pretty cold. And now we've got our percolated coffee. Oh yeah, that's pretty warm. That is just melting everything. I'm not going to scald my top. Okay, so let's have a look here at the coffee on the inside. You can see here that it's fairly coarsely ground, and we've got it. It just brewed through. Luckily, I'm glad, even though the pot was tilted a little bit in the grill, it did get full exposure. It looks like it got full exposure of the grounds. And then now here's our coffee. Looking kind of brownish, looking kind of, dirty brown, because that's what we're expecting, right? We would expect the coffee to be dirty brown, mainly because we've got like constant extraction, very coarse grind, and then we also have very coarse filtration. So a lot of the sediments are going to come through. I'm going to put it into our So in today's brew, I used 20 ounces of water and 40 grams of coffee. I should probably not put that lid on. Let's see how it goes. So this coffee also is a coffee we've used here on the show before. The red Catuai from Finca Fe y Gracia from Mari Portillo down in Comayagua, Honduras. And a really lovely coffee that has like chocolate and tangerine notes. Like the other day Friday, we had really interesting tangerine notes and aroma, fragrance coming out of it. Really surprising, even though I kind of knew that, but really beautiful experience that time. Now today, what are we gonna have? I don't know, it's gonna probably be a lot heavier because of the brew style. Try to clear off some of this, but let's taste. Definitely heavier, definitely like dirty, or not dirtier, but more muddy, dirty, more just more. You could feel the sediment on the palate more, right? It doesn't have the clarity or the cleanliness that other brew methods with like paper filtration will have. Naomi says 9 is like cold brew terry. Yeah, I wanted something really coarse, because I wasn't sure, like, did we need to, like, because it is a constant heating cycle. I didn't want to have too much extraction with finer ground coffee, so I went a bit coarser to try to hold that back a little bit so it doesn't get too heavy, right? I mean, it's good. It's good. It's got good body. It doesn't have the nuance. Like, we're used to this coffee showing a bit of nuance and expressiveness. A lot of that has been muted because of the style of brewing that we're doing today. So the inside must be taken out before. No. Actually, the way that I've neglected to mention this, but the way that I'm brewing this today is in a style that is not normal for this coffee. Meaning that when most people that make a percolator type of coffee will put everything together, they'll put it on the fire, and they'll just let it go. And there's no real prescribed time for letting it go. So for today, what I wanted to do was try to, use this older school brewing method, but incorporate some more modern brewing techniques to try to give as clean or as positive a coffee as possible. So what we did, so if we think about our normal brewing methods, whether we're using French press or pour overs, things like that, most of the times we want to have our brew finish between 3.5 to 4 minutes. We want to use 2 grams for every finished ounce. So normally for, let's say, so in this case, 2 grams for every finished ounce, we're using 20 ounces of water, 40 grams of coffee. We ground them pretty fine. And like I said, most people will take all this contraption, they'll put it together, they'll put the water in, they'll put it together, they'll put it on their heat source, and then just let it go to town. We wanted to control some of that. So we wanted to bring it up to temperature first, because most people will put that pot on and then they'll heat the water. And I think as it heats, the pressure does push some of the water through, so it does start to brew earlier. So your brews are very long, which is why a lot of people find that percolation coffee is not very pleasant, because it's just too heavy. It's basically over extracted. This is my interpretation of what I've heard about them. So in this case, we wanted to try to rig it in our favor by boiling the water first, bringing the water to temperature, and then adding the whole percolation system with the coffee to it, and then starting the time, because it's already boiling. So the moment we add it, it's already going to start to push the water through the stem and over the coffee, which means it's going to start to brew the coffee then. And so we only let that happen for 3 minutes, 40 seconds before we pulled it. Coffee Cove says that Naomi, it depends on the type of percolator. The electric ones I used had a spout on the bottom. People would pour their cups sometimes before it was finished brewing. Ah, yes, yeah, that's not uncommon. I remember when I was a lot younger, people would have their Mr. Coffee, and as soon as there was enough to make it pour coffee, they would pour it from Mr. Coffee, which is always a little bit of it's always going to give you a little bit heavier brew, because most of the solids are coming out. And when we talk about brew extraction, right? Like, let's say 20 grams of coffee or 40 grams of coffee to 20 ounces of water, that's for the total brew ratio, right? The total brew time, everything together. Like, let's say at a pour over or something, the earlier part of your pour, you're getting a lot more of the sediments coming out of it, right? Because the coffee is still laden with sediments, and as you pull it out, the rate of extraction is actually decreasing. So your first, let's say at a 40-ounce pour, your first 10 ounces are going to be the heaviest brew, and then your last 10 ounces are going to be the lighter brew. But all together, they come and create the right balance that you're looking for. So it's a little bit of a false economy to pour your coffee early, like in the case of a Mr. Coffee style brewer. Yeah, seeing the percolator, you can pour everything inside here. I just took it out and considering that the percolator, this coffee part sits above the water or the liquid, it's unlikely that it's going to continue brewing. I just pulled it out just for more illustration purposes. Nobody says, I just remember the jumbo ones for office coffee with the bottom spout. Oh, yes, yes, I remember that. I remember seeing those. I've been drinking black coffee the last few days, and I don't enjoy it. I'm realizing my creamer really covers a lot of, and mutes any harshness. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Depending on the coffee that you're using, right? Like you will find that the cream and sugar is important because it does make it a little bit more palatable. But if you start to use more, for lack of a better term, fancy coffees, you'll find. I think you'll find that you'll find greater nuance, greater expressiveness, and potentially greater enjoyment. Like I don't really use. Like we went out to breakfast on Saturday. We went out to a diner up in Pennsylvania, and I did use cream and sugar there. It's a little bit rougher coffee, but it's kind of like it's commensurate with the experience. So, for your pancakes and tater tots, you kind of want to have a sweet coffee, sweet milky coffee. I did put 2 spoonfuls of 2 teaspoons of sugar in initially, and that was too much. That was too much. Should only put 1. Coffee Cove says, one way to help prevent over-extraction with percolators is to remove the grinds when done brewing. Then as it recycles around, it will not keep going over the grinds. Oh, that's a good way. But unfortunately with this particular one, oh, it does. Yeah, you could, it would be a little bit more of an operation, but I guess you can take this out and then put that back in, and that would circulate the liquid, the coffee liquid around a bit more. I'm going to get rid of this coffee here by putting it in the fire. Okay. And then Naomi says, but because I don't use milks in my teas, I can taste the difference and the nuances. Maybe I just need to drink more black coffee so I can pick out taste. So it's kind of like, I think that you just need to find nice quality coffees, right? I'm presuming that if you're drinking a lot of teas without adding the milk, you're probably buying some fairly nice quality teas. You just need to find the equivalent level of coffee as those teas, and then you'll start to see a whole world of expressiveness with coffee come your way. Maku wants to know why. This is what happens when you have a whole group of friends. Everyone's just like, what are you doing, dude? Why are you doing that? What kind of craziness is that? Booster says, the only time I use cream sugar is when I drink Wawa or Royal Farms convenience store. I went to Royal Farms a while back because now they have those like super automatic machines that do all of their brewing. That was appreciably difficult coffee. Like, I just was curious. I was like, oh, it's appreciably difficult coffee. Booster says, the only time I use cream and sugar, oh no, I never drink my coffee black, Maku, but I have had to for upcoming medical procedure. No milks of any kind. Ah, okay. Or could leave the stem and basket out as well. Oh, you mean like as far as leave the, just to keep it on the fire, or just put the coffee directly in? I think you meant the former rather than the latter. I buy good coffee, but I never tried it without cream or sugar or oat milk. You should definitely give it a try. See what you think. It may be to your liking. It may not. But I think that maybe part of I'm going to venture and just make a guess here, right? But perhaps part of the reason why you probably went with cream and sugar with a lot of the coffees that you're using is because it's kind of what we've expected. Like growing up here in America, man, we just expect to use cream and sugar with coffee. That's kind of like the de facto standard. And I totally understand that because that's how I knew coffee for many, many years. And when I came back to Maryland from Hawaii, and I would hang out at the cigar shop, the owner was a big coffee guy. He was selling coffee from a place called White House Coffee in Long Island, New York. And I would get and he would give us free coffee once in a while. But I was, my friends were drinking, so They didn't sell Coke, and I'd have to walk to another store to get the Coke. So I was like, I'll just buy the coffee here and just doctor it up. So I get a 16-ounce hazelnut coffee with, this is like 1996, right? So I get a 16-ounce hazelnut coffee with 6 packets of sugar and about that much cream, because I just didn't like the flavor of coffee in general and wanted to have, some kind of sweetness to it. So we need to add more wood to the flame because the wood is dying out. So I've got more wood to add. I cut up a whole bunch of pallets, or some of the pallets, the other day in anticipation of today, because I need to be out here, at least myself, doing the working. There's our fire. Trying to keep it alive, to keep some nice and oh wow, now that I see my pot looks terrible. Look at that, it's all sooty. It's very disappointing. But that should be something that I should be able to wash off, or there is a little bit of discoloration, you can kind of see there, so it has kind of tempered the metal. I don't know how to get around that, but basically I think that one way, if it's really heavy, then maybe some bartender's friend might be the way to go. Kofko says, yes, remove the stem and basket, but keep the unit on or at the edge of heat to keep it warm. Okay, gotcha. Naomi says, and I played around with the Chemex recipe with a coffee I have and was really surprised by the nice. I don't use sugar. Okay, that's no worries. I mean, you can, it's all right. No one's going to judge you. Well, Busa might, but I won't judge you. The coffee I use has tasting notes of butter, blueberry pie, cocoa, and candied pecan. Oh, wow. What I smelled was the blueberry and pecan. Wow, that sounds great. That actually sounds delicious. Omniel's with us. What's going on, Mako? I totally agree with you. Well dialed in, light roast, filter coffee shouldn't need anything else. Oh, yeah. I think it's very nice. Charles Mintree says, Granny used coffee in baby bottle to adjust my days and nights as a... Nice. She used cream and sugar, and then I still use it at 64. Habit is hard to break. Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome, Charles. Gammy says, Marco, I'll be playing. I will definitely be playing around with that again. Yeah, there's a lot to play around here with. There's a lot to play around. But the coffee overall, so let's see, how is this coffee? I mean, it's actually very pleasant. It's very pleasant. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have the, it doesn't have that nuance that we had in the Chemex the other day with this coffee. Same brew ratio, more or less the similar brew time, just a different method of brewing. So coarser ground today, hotter temperatures, direct heat. So a different approach. But still, coffee is very pleasant. I mean, definitely very enjoyable. If my local bakery is open, they're actually closed until the 9th. For gosh, I was trying to call them over the weekend, and I had a message. We are closed till the 9th. I was like, you're closed till the 9th? Where am I going to get my donuts? It's terrible. It's just like bakery that I think I've had donuts on the show from a place called Simon's. They do very old school raised stone donuts. How can they be closed? Don't understand that. This is a critical time in life. We need donuts. So how's the weather in your parts? You know, is it like this? Is it worse? The snow, as you can see, is kind of slowed down a little bit. Although the parts that I have plowed already, or snowblowed, is getting covered again. That's disconcerting. Omniel says 73 right now. Oh, nice. I guess if you had snow, that would be a major catastrophe in that part of the country. Like I see people in what is it? I see reports whenever like South Carolina, once in a while, once every blue moon, South Carolina, North Carolina will get snow, and they have like total paralysis, like half an inch of snow, total paralysis. And of course, Maryland people are all like, what's wrong with those guys? But then, you know, here you get 2 inches and everyone's like, oh no, we need to go buy toilet paper. It's like, come on, man. Don't you keep toilet paper at home? One of my problems at the moment is that the snow that's at my feet is melting and kind of icing over. So I'm kind of sliding around as I'm standing here talking to you. And the interesting thing is, okay, here's something interesting that I'm going to show you that I'm totally surprised with. Now, I've got this fire going, right? So you know I've got this fire happening. But look at the way the snow is melting around it. I don't know if, I'm hoping that I can see, because I can't really see what I'm showing. But look at the way it's like melting. It's like jagged. And that's happening. And all the jaggedness is facing the fire in all directions, wherever I go. I've never seen this before, so I'm totally like fascinated by it. There's our fire. So it's just interesting, that's all. It's not that that's any, probably, you're probably like, well, so what? What does that have to do about coffee? Coffee Cove says, cold in Ohio and a little snow so far. The worst mostly through mid-southern. Oh, okay, good. Are you more northern Ohio, like Cleveland? Is that it, right? Is that right? Maku says 36 degrees and raining in Charlotte. And if you're totally right, but when it snows and the city shuts down, as it should, because the roads here are not ready. Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, you guys don't have the plows. You probably don't have the tires. Even here in Maryland, like, people don't have the tires. People are insisting to be out regardless of what they, you know, whether or not they have like the right gear to be out. It's really kind of crazy. Booster says, oh my gosh, people go into panic mode. Oh yeah. I'm from Ohio, so yeah. Oh yeah. You guys in Ohio are a little bit, I think if you're like Ohio, like around the Great Lakes, Buffalo, like you guys have that lake effect snow. So it's like, you have snow. Like, you guys are the type of people that like, it's 3 feet of snow. Okay, what time we going to school? It's like, school is still open. It's like, all right, excellent. Like here, 2 inches of snow, we're paralyzed for like 2 weeks. It's like, oh my gosh, everything's horrible here. Charles says, forget buying the toilet paper to prepare for a snowstorm. Make sure you have plenty of, oh, absolutely. Northwest Ohio. Okay, excellent. My daughter lives in Alabama, and there's always a panic when snow there. Oh, yeah. Oh, Alabama, yeah, I can't imagine living in Alabama and having snow. That would be... You're supposed to have the roll tide, not the roll snow in Alabama. All right. And Yomi says, I always have coffee. Always have to have coffee. Oh, that's an important factor. Although because I'm in the business and I always have like some amount of coffee in the shops or at the warehouse, I haven't really thought about like, oh, I need to worry about having coffee. Sometimes I worry about it because sometimes we run low on like what we have on hand and we have to bring it in from the warehouses. Like, we just don't keep enough. It's very difficult to have a big enough warehouse to warehouse everything that you might have during the year. So the Asian Dev says that I wish we had the same amount of snow here in New Jersey, New York. Oh yeah. But you guys had some really good snowfall last year, right? Like, we didn't have any real snow. We had 1 day of snowfall in 2024. And I remember this snowblower, right? It had been sitting here and we hadn't used it in many years. Actually, we never used it. I got it from my uncle a few years back and never used it. And my brother's a mechanic and he was the one that really wanted to get it. And I was like, all right, let's get it. Let's go pick it up. And I was like, are we gonna take it to your shop? No, just drop it at your house. I said, why do you drop it at the house? Take it to your shop. You're the mechanic. You gotta start it up. He's like, oh yeah, we'll get to it. Years later, never got to it, just sat here. So finally, last year, I was like, I got to get this done. So, because what if it starts to snow? So I called up this guy we know, this guy who does he comes out to your house to fix any kind of lawn equipment. So he came out here to check out the snowblower, and he's like, he worked it all back up, fixed everything, made it all brand new, and it works awesome. Of course, the day that I scheduled him, right? I scheduled him on a Monday, and like today, it was a day like today. The day that he's supposed to come, we had the only snowfall, right? I was like, oh man. So he's like, I can't make it. So I was like, oh man. So he came like a couple days later after we had cleared off the snow, and then we never had snow again. I was like, you know, I was telling him, I was like, now that you've fixed this snowblower, we're never gonna have snow this year. He's like, yep, that's how it is, and that's exactly what happened. But now, was out here earlier, works like a champ. I've always like hand shoveled snow. I didn't really never use, but it does leave a little bit of a layer underneath. It doesn't really scratch the ground because it's got the augers, right? So it doesn't really like scoop it. Like if you had a plow, you could scoop it, or shovel, you scratch I really prefer that, but you know, it's a lot easier to like it's a lot to control. But it, you know, if I think about, okay, I may like bitch about like, oh, it's a little bit hard to control, but like, if I had to do it all by hand, like always, well, this is so much better. But it is loud. That is the thing, loud. Malcolm wants to know if Asian Dev is a software developer. And Asian Devs, we really get snow nowadays. We rarely get snow nowadays. Where are you then? Oh, NYC. Oh, yeah, NYC. There hasn't got much snow over the years. Oh, everybody's off software developing. Oh, nice. Nice. Oh, excellent, excellent. NYC and Charlotte. Very nice. No, but both of you don't get much snow. I guess that's, you know, in some ways it's a nice thing. Here in Maryland, the problem with snow here, that I think, is that a lot of times it will snow, maybe not this much as we're having today, but it will snow and then it will stop, and then the temperatures will jump up and rise, and then everything melts or becomes like black and slushy and brown and ugly. So I just want to have the moment of like beauty. Like right now, the snow is falling, it's quiet, it's sticking to the trees. It's a very pretty scene, right? Like, look at the trees. They're all like covered. I would enjoy snow more here in Maryland if we could have like frigid temperatures to keep the snow fluffy and nice for like a week or two. And then it could stick. But a lot of times it just kind of comes and then gets hot and then goes away. And you're like, man. Like I my friends who like live in Vermont, right? They live in like Wet River Junction. Like they have picturesque, like it's all like picturesque. I'm like, oh, dude, that's really pretty. Of course, he's like, it kind of sucks. But I was like, hey, I guess it kind of sucks, but at least it's pretty. Marco says, NYC doesn't get much snow. I always thought it snowed a lot. Yeah, no, actually in the city it doesn't snow. I remember when I lived in New York City for a bit, it never snowed. Well, of course, I lived there off and on, but yes, snow was not, maybe it snowed more in the 80s than it does now. I think it's some kind of heat effect from all the concrete. Maybe. The Asian Dev says that the past couple of years has been empty, surprisingly. Wow, yeah. That maybe like 4 years ago you get the random snowstorm. But I guess, you know, in the cities, man, it's like in the counties it's a little bit better for snowfall because there's you can kind of plow things to the side. But in the city, like in Baltimore City when we had the shops there, it was like it's brutal. Like you can't, like in 2009, we had back-to-back blizzards, 2-foot blizzards, back-to-back within a week. If you guys remember that. 4 feet of snow. Like it was craziness. Like you had it all piled up. And here's the thing, like the thing that you don't, when it's a little bit of snow or rain, you don't really think about it because it's manageable. But when you have a lot of snow, like, where do you put the snow? When it rains, if it rains like 2 inches, like torrential rain, like it goes to the drains and it goes away. Snow's frozen, so it's not draining anywhere. It's just piling up. And then how do you move it and where do you put it? Right? Like here, you could just kind of plow it to the side of the road. But in the city, you can't plow it to the side of the road. There's sidewalks and then there's buildings and houses. You're like, so these guys gotta like what? They gotta put them on dump trucks and truck it somewhere, dump it in the harbor or something. It's like, wow, just a whole like different level of complexity in a city. And I can imagine like in New York City, it'd be worse. Kent says heavy snowfall here on the west coast of Norway as well. Oh my goodness. Well, you guys are very used to that, I imagine. West coast of Norway, that sounds so nice out there. You guys have picturesque winters. Like right now, it's probably like this and pretty months at a time. Asian Dev says, I attribute that to global warming. Oh, probably. I wouldn't be surprised. Everything is global warming nowadays. I'm visiting Toronto in a few weeks, so I'll experience some Norwegian snow. Oh, Tromsø, not Toronto. I said Oh, wow, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I would love to go to Norway again. I went to Oslo a few years ago. Haven't been back since, but I went to go visit Tim Wendelbo. I was in Copenhagen, so I called him up. I was like, hey, man, I'm in Copenhagen. You around this week? He's like, yeah, man, come up Wednesday. I was like, I'm coming up. Malcolm says, I grew up watching Friends. That's where I got all my... And just so you know, because you're watching Friends, that everybody in New York can afford apartments like that because they're super cheap. Super cheap. Super cheap. Man, I remember years ago, was it 2002, I think it was? We were up in New York City. Back then, my friend worked for Viacom. He worked for MTV, so we're hanging out at the MTV studios for the day. And one of the girls we know up there, she's an anesthesiologist back then. Well, she still is, I guess. And she was telling us that she had this apartment at the Rockefeller Center. And we went to her house. We went to her apartment. It was a really gorgeous apartment, but tiny, like 800 square feet. Right? 800 square feet. I mean, you know, she's a anesthesiologist. She made good money and a well-appointed apartment and doorman and all that kind of modern building. And I was like, how much is your rent here? She's like, $3,500. $3,500? Holy crap. How can you afford to live in that? How can anyone? Like one of my good friends, like he works at a hotel in Midtown. He lives in the Bronx. And yeah, that's not uncommon, New Yorkers, right? You guys are living, but it's like, man, how? It's so expensive, so expensive. But I gotta say, you know what? I went to NYU, and I loved living in New York City. I loved living in the Village. So one of my good friends, he's always like, anytime you want to come up, man, you just crash at my place. He's got this flat in Chelsea, like right on 20th Street. And I love staying there. It's like a really cool flat, like small flat, but he's really well appointed, really well kept. So it's like, yeah, man, anytime you want. So anytime I go to New York City, I usually stay there because what I like about it is that you get up in the morning and you're in the middle of Manhattan. And I just love that. Like I've always loved that since I went to NYU, and I was like, oh man, I like this. I don't have to take the train too far away. Asian Dev says nowadays 800 square feet in Manhattan is about 4,500 rent. Oh my gosh. Or to buy is close to 700,000 for old buildings, but usually averages close to the 1.1. Man. You know, there was a time in the 80s. I'm talking about like 87, 88. Where, and I didn't really understand all of this then, right? We would go to this part of Manhattan because it was cool. It wasn't cool. It was totally industrial and it was totally closed at night. But there was a couple places there that we would go to just because we liked it. There was a boutique for a company called Comme des Garçons. Ray Kawakubo had a boutique there. Steven Sprouse had a boutique down there. And then on West Broadway, I'm talking about Soho, right? Down on West Broadway was Canal Jean, and Canal Jean was open like until like 10 or 11 or 12 or something like that, some late hour. And you would go down there, right? It would be nighttime. You go down to Canal Jean on West Broadway, and it was totally empty, like this whole area. Like you'd walk there through Soho, right? And imagine Soho today at night, like let's say like a nightfall, 7 o'clock at night, utterly devoid of people, completely closed, shuttered, businesses are all closed, there's no shops, Just a couple shops every once in a while, like Comme des Garçons, like Steven Sprouse. And then all the way in the far end of West Broadway was Canal Jean, this one beacon. And it was the only thing that was open at night. So it'd just be lit up and you're like, there's Canal Jean. I don't remember what we bought there, but we would go there. And back then, like, of course, real estate in New York's always been expensive. But back then, it was like, man, we should, if we were smart, we could have bought places in Soho then and be like totally stylish today. But we didn't. But we didn't because we didn't know. One thing about gloves and fires is that it gives you, falling apart here, is it gives you a false sense of security. Like when I'm wearing gloves, especially leather gloves, I'll do all kinds of things around fire grab. Especially I have welding gloves, then I'll do all kinds of crazy stuff. Kent says, the Asian Dev, I think you will experience some harsh weather in Tromsø for sure, but it's a great place to visit. Oh, nice. There's a place, I think it's in Norway, I could be wrong, that I found, they do these bags, these leather bags. They look amazing. They're wildly expensive, right? But they're so awesome, like reindeer leather. I think they do their own tanning. They're like they're definitely not Finnish, but I think Norwegian. They're way up in the north somewhere. But every once in a while, I'll think about them and I'll look up their bags. And I'm like, oh man, one day. Like a backpack for them is like $4,000. You're like, oh my God. But the leather looks so supple, so beautiful. I can't think of the name of the place, but if you happen to look it up, Asian Dev, if you're there, man, you like bags, oof, that's some sexy bags. Like, that's the kind of sexy, like, okay, so for guys like me, like, that's some sexiness. Like, that's a higher level of sexy bag than Goyard, right? Goyard's cool, right? But like, this is like manly. You're like, man, like Goyard is kind of like your fancy Euro dude with Louis Vuitton, right? Like, you're better than Louis Vuitton because now you're Goyard. But now with this one, you're like manly leather. It's like, man, you're like, I'm like the king with leather, right? Asian says that we were thinking of actually driving from Tromsø to Lapland, Finland, but decided against it and just flying to Katilia. Oh, nice. Is that because, well, but here's the thing. I wonder, like, did you decide to drive just because it might be treacherous? Because what I've found, and I have not been really driving around those parts of Europe, but my experience driving in the winter, like let's say in Germany and France, I found it to be very pleasurable and relatively easy, even when it was snowing, because one of the things that I thought was interesting about like Germany or renting cars in Germany is that they're very much in tune with the weather. Like, you can't just rent a car there and they're just going to put whatever tires. Like, they switch all their tires in the wintertime to snow tires, winter style tires. So it's like, I wouldn't think, if the treacherous aspect, I wouldn't worry. I don't think I would be so concerned if that was the case. But time-wise, certainly it's much faster to fly probably than that. But either way, so beautiful. Are you going there for work, or are you going there just to like experience the beauty of Norway? I ask sometimes because, for me, it's like most of my travel is always work-related. So I never really, like I was telling my friends, I don't really know how to travel for fun. Like, if I go somewhere for fun, what do I do there? Like, I don't know. Like, my friends, they're like, you want to go to the beach? No, I don't know what I would do at a beach. Like, do I sit at the beach? And I lived in Hawaii, right? And here's the crazy thing. Last time I was in Hawaii was 2022, right? I was in Hawaii for 3 weeks. I did not go to the beach one day of those 3 weeks. I was like, my God. After I was about to leave, I was like, I went to the pool because I belong to a club there where I can use the pool. But like, I never went to the beach. I was like, how did that happen? Asian Dev says it's more so the time. Oh, yeah, understood. Originally, I thought it was just a 6-hour drive per what Google says, but after research, everyone says to double it due to snow. So not, oh, yeah, 2 12-hour drives. Yeah, in 3 days, yeah, that's too much. Definitely too much. Visiting for fun, going to snowboard and do that igloo hotel. Oh, nice, dude. But wife wants to see, oh yeah, the Northern Lights, man. I've always wanted to go to the, like Reykjavik or like to Norway to see them. Happily, I finally got to see them. I've dreamt of it my entire life. Never had the chance to go because I was never in that part of the world at the right time, right? But finally, I did get to see them here, just in the backyard. Early this year, we had those Northern Lights that came down. It was really a freak thing, and it was after one of the Coffee and Cigars live streams. I was like looking up, and I was like, I kind of see this hazy red color. It was weird because like it was kind of hazy, and then when I used the phone, you could see it clearly. Like for whatever reason, like to the naked eye, it wasn't so clear, but to the phone, it was. So I grabbed one of the bigger like FX30 cameras that I have, and I shot a lot of footage of it. And it's just, I was like, oh my gosh, man, epic. But it would be nice to see it like super like clear and like crazy. I would love to see that still. But I hope you have a great time, man. That sounds like an excellent time. Kent says, for a good coffee in Toronto, I'd visit Tollefsen Hennet. My apologies for my pronunciation. I can barely see. Like it's so far. The phone is actually so far away from me. It's run by a former manager at Tim Wendelboe's. Oh, that's going to be good. That's going to be good. Tim, I must say, Tim's an old friend of mine. Like we've been friends for 20 years or so, and so perhaps I have a natural bias towards him. But like when I went to go visit his shop in 2019, I arrived there before he was coming because he was, he's a busy guy. So I was hanging out at his shop, and I was just, having coffee with his staff. I didn't tell them that I was there to meet Tim. I just came in as a regular person, had a coffee, sat down, just enjoyed myself, watched them in action, enjoying the atmosphere. And I got to say, Tim's crew is solid, man. They are so solid at Tim Wendelboe's Cafe. It's like, if you have the opportunity to go to Oslo, it's worth the visit. I mean, I flew there just to go visit. Well, I flew there to hang out with him a little bit, but and I imagine that if this guy is one of the managers worked at Tim Wendelboe, he's going to bring a lot of great practices, really forward-thinking approaches to coffee. So I think I would definitely suggest, like Kent says, to go there. Like I would go there I'm encouraging you to go just based on that Kent's factoid alone. It's like, oh yeah, chances are high that you're going to have a great experience, just for the fact that the guy came from Tim's employ. Great recommendation. I'm definitely going to visit. Excellent. Do let us know what you think about it. We booked some restaurant reservations, but not much to do. Well. And Busa loves Tim Wendelboe Coffee Shop. Oh, you've been there. Excellent service and coffee. Yeah, they're so sharp. They're really, he's one of the few world barista champions, I think, that has really continued on and continued to be very impressive in execution and continuance of their coffee. A lot of them will do other things, but Tim has his own shop, pushing forward his own vision of coffee, which I think is really an exciting thing. All right, it's almost 11. I need to go back to plowing. And also, here's something interesting. The flakes, the snow has changed. Like earlier when we started about an hour ago, it was more pelletized. Now it's more flaky. So we're getting more flaky. I don't know if that means that it's gotten a little bit colder. I don't know what that means. I have no idea. I'm not a meteorologist. I have no idea. But the coffee is still good. So, happy Monday. It is the first Monday of 2025. We got the first snowfall of 2025. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow with more of the coffee Q&A, probably in warmer climes. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and hope you have a wonderful day out there. And if you're in the weather, do be careful. try not to get yourself in trouble. Stay at home. Don't go out. I'm not planning on leaving today. I'm planning to stay here. I'm going to blow more snow. Stay at home. Maybe make some sausages. Oh, so something like that. Excuse me. So, thank you for tuning in. Wherever you are in the world, hope you have a wonderful day out there in Norway or down in South Carolina or in or Charlotte, actually. Oh, Charlotte, by the way, Charlotte, there's a coffee shop there. I got to find the name of it. One of my friends opened the coffee shop in Charlotte a couple years back. Jeff Babcock, he's the owner of Zoka Coffee. He moved to North Carolina for some reason unknown. Oh, Maku, thank you very much, man. Really appreciate that. And really, really appreciate that. That's very kind. And yeah, I'll try to get the name of that place and then let you guys know what place that is so you can find it easier. All right, so that's it for today. I'm going to take my gloves off because I can't touch the phone screen without it. Hope you have a wonderful day out there. Be careful and see you next time.